Council for Monday, September 16th, 2019. Our invocation this evening will be offered by Rachel Williams-Glenn, pastor of St. Paul's AME Church. Good evening. If you would please stand for the invocation, remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Great and awesome God, we welcome you into this place. We ask that you fill us with your grace, with your mercy, with your peace. Allow us to do right by you and by the city of Independence. Open our ears and our minds and our hearts to hear each other, to value each other, and to put each other as important persons. In the strong name of our Savior, we say, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Council members Huff.
Here.
Perkins.
Here.
Doherty.
Here.
DeLucy.
Here.
Robertson.
Here.
Van Camp.
Here.
Mayor Weir.
Here. We have one citizen request this evening. It is Greg Higginbotham, who asked to speak to the council regarding the Brady Cabin and the Big Spring on Pioneer Spring. Greg? Oh, there you are. How are you?
Well,
Good. If you just
Thank
come up
you.
and please state your name for the record.
my name is Greg Higginbotham. And what else?
That's all.
That's all.
And you'll have 5 minutes.
I get 5 minutes. Well, thank you, Mayor and council persons, for allowing me 5 minutes to tell a great American story. I'm here regarding the Brady Cabin, or Big Spring, or Pioneer, a spring cabin located in Nolan and Truman Road. I'm here to kind of give you a background of myself. I'm schooled at the University of Texas at Austin at the Winedale program regarding history preservation of historic structures and museum exhibits, in particular Western expansion, Civil War history, and middle 19th century. You have to excuse me because I'm kind of fussing a little bit with a throat problem here. Currently, I work for Mid-America Library Alliance and also with a team of what I consider to be experts in rebuilding 19th century log structures as well as post and beam structures from the 19th century. And presently finished putting a floor on the old Maple Hotel on Maple Street, and currently working on at Shoal Creek on 2 historic houses operated by Kansas City Parks and Recreation. I've been in conversation with council persons and saying that I would like to see the Brady Cabin saved, preferably at its original location, but since it's been moved from there since 1974 and placed close to the Sermon Center, in regarding, I would like to leave it there, but also I understand it's probably going to be moved to the Pioneer Trails Museum adjacent to the Alton Railroad Station that was moved there several years ago. I've seen a present location that was asked to be placed at, and my personal opinion is it's a bad location to be placed on the east side of the Trails Museum, and I think closer to the Alton Station would be a better location for the reason of probably drainage. I'd like to point out one thing about that cabin very quickly for history. It was originally taken out of Arkansas on a warranty deed by the owner, and it was lots number 116, 117, 118, and 119 in Independence, referred to as the Irish Town, around Walnut Street, Harmony Street, which is somewhat Nolan Road now, and Kansas Street. Henry Washington Younger and Bathsheba Younger purchased the property as a lot in 1835 for a total of $150. In January of 1837, it was filed. I believe that structure was built there because in 1847, Henry Washington Younger and Bathsheba Younger sold that for $333.33. So I believe that that structure sat there, and if you're not familiar with the Younger name in Jackson County, Missouri, then it holds that there is a famous Missourian in this area, whether good or bad, who had parents that were responsible for that. So in closing, I appreciate the time that you all have allowed me. I hope that you can tell a great American story by preserving that structure, because there are very few log structures surviving in Jackson County, Missouri. I work closely with a lot of log structures, and I hope that this one can be saved. And in fact, if it goes to the Trails Museum area adjacent to the depot, the Alton Depot, I hope that I'm considered to give my opinion on the location if it is moved. And so I hope you consider it very seriously. And I think the placement of it could probably tell a good interpretive story to our younger citizens in years to come. And so I guess I could ask for questions, but...
Thanks, Greg. We appreciate it very much.
All right.
We know how to get in touch with you as we move forward on this Pioneer Spring Cabin, so thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
I appreciate it. Okay, this leads us to our presentation this evening. Stephanie Marriott from the immediate past president of the Independence Junior Service League is here to present the Susie P. Bloch Distinguished Public Service Award.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My name is Stephanie Marriott. I am the past president of Junior Service League. I appreciate your time this evening, and thank you for allowing us to be here to present this award tonight. At this time, I would like to invite up Mrs. Barbara de Blasi, the sister of Susan Paxton Bloch, to come on up before we begin our acceptance of the award.
It's always wonderful to see you all. And thank you again for, it's like 23 years, so we've seen each other get a few extra wrinkles and kind of travel the road together. Again, I want to say thank you for preserving Susie's memory and providing this honor for the outstanding people who are dedicated to Independence, Missouri, because if great people don't do great things, then Independence won't continue to grow and move forward. And if you know that anything about my sister, you knew that she had a vision of Little Blue Parkway, and now we have it. There you go. So I want to say her daughters are doing well. Megan had a baby. She is an attorney in Pittsburgh. Dana is a maternal fetal medicine specialist, and she lives in Virginia. So that's pretty amazing. And she's an adjunct at Johns Hopkins. So they're doing wonderfully. And I want to say that it touched my heart so deeply that someone who knew Susie won this award. And I know if Susie could be here, she would hug her. So thank you for giving me the stage for a moment, and until we meet again.
Thanks again for being here.
For those who don't know, the Susan Paxton Bloch Distinguished Public Service Award is given to one recipient for excellence in city government. The winner for the 2019 Susan Paxton Bloch Distinguished Public Service Award goes to Sheila Saxton, and I'd like to read the nomination form. Sheila Saxton began her career at the City of Independence in 1983 in the tourism department after working 6 years at the Truman Presidential Library and Museum. Her initial job with the city was in public information capacity, which included taking citizen complaints and doing a report for city council members. Sheila went on to work directly for the city council, assisting all 6 district council members in every aspect of their serving in the districts and community. Sheila has worked diligently with numerous council members and mayors over the years, including Bill Baker, Ron Stewart, and Susan Paxton Bloch, just to name a few. To say Sheila is a wealth of knowledge to city council members, city staff, retirees, citizens, and anyone who seeks her counsel on any subject pertaining to City Hall or the rich history of Independence would be an understatement. Sheila openly shares her vast knowledge and compassion for Independence with anyone who seeks it in the numerous calls and personal visits she receives on a routine basis by many. Sheila is known for going the extra mile in everything she does. leaving everyone with a full picture of helpful knowledge, both pro and con to any issue brought to her. She is the epitome of one of the most dedicated, professional, and caring people, and she acts that way with anyone with whom she comes into contact. Whether working on calls or contacts Sheila receives in the City Council or on her personal cell phone during or after business hours, no one is turned away. Night or day, feeling less than they have just dealt with someone who puts their heart into everything they do. After more than 36 years of career in public service, we are honored to nominate our colleague and friend, one of the most deserving people that the nominator knows, for an award that would be extra special given her compassion for serving this community and her professional and personal pride in working with Susan Paxton Bloch, who she not only called a boss, but a friend. At this time, please join me in congratulating Sheila Saxton, the winner of the 2019 Susan Paxton Bloch Distinguished Public Service Award.
I'll be really quick because this is so out of my comfort zone. I'd like to thank the Paxton Bloch families and the Junior Service League. I had the opportunity to work with Susie when she was on the council. She could be tough, thorough, very organized with a passion for everything she did, and she was fun. I'm very grateful that I got to know her as well as I did. I'd like to thank the mayors and city councils that I've worked for over the years. I've never worked with a council that I didn't learn from. And most of all, I'd like to express my appreciation to all of my coworkers for the past 35, almost 36 years. Great people to work with, and I couldn't do my job without them. This award means more to me than you know. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Sheila, very deserving, who's taken more citizen complaints than anybody on earth. And I would say more citizen compliments as well, so congratulations. We'll move on with our proclamation for Constitution Week.
Whereas we the people did ordain and establish a constitution for the United States of America to secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity. And whereas it is important that all citizens fully understand the provisions, principles, and meaning of the Constitution so they can support, preserve, and defend it against encroachment. And whereas Constitution Week provides an opportunity for all Americans to learn about and to reflect upon the rights and privileges of citizenship and its responsibilities. And whereas September 17th, 2019 marks the 232nd anniversary of the signing of the Constitution of the United States by our nation's founders. And whereas the Congress, by joint resolution on February 29th, 1952, designated September 17th as Citizenship Day. And by joint resolution of August 2nd, 1956, requested that the President proclaim the week beginning September 17th and ending September 23rd of each year as Constitution Week, and it is fitting to accord official city recognition to this important anniversary. Now therefore, Eileen N. Weir, Mayor of the City of Independence, hereby proclaims September 17th, 2019 as Citizenship Day, and the week of September 16th through 22nd as Constitution Week.
Okay, thank you very much. Bob? There you go. We'll turn here, we'll take a picture. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Okay, this takes us to our consent agenda. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor Weir, I move to approve the reports and recommendations of the city manager.
Second.
It's It's been moved and seconded. Are there any items any council member
Mayor.
wishes pulled for separate consideration?
Mayor Weir,
Yes, Councilman Doherty.
would you pull for separate consideration 792 and 791?
Okay. Are there any others? Okay. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll on the consent agenda minus, resolutions 19791 and 19792?
Council members Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Councilman Doherty.
Thank you. Both of these candidates, so first one is, 792? We're on, which one are we on? 792? Okay.
792.
All right, both of these candidates are on here. We can only have one, so we have to pull them out separate. Mr. Williams was on the Downtown Planning Committee, did a good job, and had expressed interest on being on additional committees and was interviewed by the committee, and I move for approval.
Madam Mayor?
Hold on just a moment. We need a
Okay.
second. Can I have discussion?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Councilmember DeLucy.
And here we are again with only one spot and two applicants. I was on the committee. Mr. Williams is a very good person, but I know Mr. Grant Watkins Davis is much more qualified, and that is the reason I will be voting no on Mr. Williams and yes on Mr. Grant Davis.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other comments or questions?
Mayor Weir.
Yes.
So the three of us, Councilmember Doherty and DeLucy and myself, were the interview committee. We interviewed 4 people, and they were all good people. The only one that really had any background or understanding of the Planning Commission was Grant Davis. So Grant is working on his degree in community development and serves on a couple other city commissions. So he already has some background with the city, and so he's by far and away, in my opinion, and DeLucy and I both put forward his name. He's by far really the only one that was qualified of the 4 candidates that we interviewed at this point. Not to say anything bad about any of the other 3, but they just simply were not qualified for this particular commission. And so in our opinion, in my opinion, Grant Davis is really the only one that applied and was interviewed that really is qualified. So I will be voting just for him as well. Thanks.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Will you please call the roll on 19792?
Council members Huff,
No.
Perkins,
No.
Doherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
No.
Robertson,
No.
Van Camp,
No.
Mayor Weir.
No. Councilmember DeLucy, 19792 fails. Or, I'm sorry, Councilmember Doherty, 19791.
Thank you. This is Mr. Watkins. He also was interviewed by the committee. All of the ones that we had interviewed were good people, and we just want to remember that there is no set qualifications for this. It's just a willingness to serve and use common sense. So as far as qualifications, everyone that came in and interviewed were qualified because they filled out the application. I move for approval of 791.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Watkins has a degree in economics. He currently is in a master's program, and his master's is in community development. He is a lifelong resident of the City of Independence, and he's a veteran of the U.S. Air Force. He is very well qualified to sit on the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Council members Huff,
No.
Perkins,
No.
Doherty,
No.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
No.
Mayor Weir.
No. 19791 fails. This takes us to our second readings. Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 19060, an ordinance levying a tax on all real property subject to taxation on January 1st, 2019, within the corporate limits of the City of Independence, Missouri, for general revenue and public health and recreation purposes, and for the Independence Square Special Business Benefit District, said levies and assessments being separate and distinct, all for the fiscal year commencing on the first day of July 2019 and ending on the 30th day of June 2020. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 19061, an ordinance vacating the entirety of a sanitary sewer easement serving the William Yates School at 3600 South Davidson Avenue, Independence, Missouri. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 19062, an ordinance authorizing the city clerk to do all things necessary for the holding of a primary and general city election within the city of Independence, Missouri, in compliance with the charter adopted by said city as amended, and all state laws in reference thereto, and to certify to the Jackson County Board of Election Commissioners all names of candidates properly presented by petitions under the charter, and for the holding of a primary election on February 4th, 2020, and a general election on April 7th, 2020. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 19063, an ordinance accepting a grant from Missouri State Emergency Management Agency for the Emergency Management Performance Grant Program and estimating revenue and increasing appropriations in the amount of $108,503.66 in the grants fund. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 19064, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement between the City of Independence, acting through its municipal utility, Independence Power and Light, and Spectrum Mid-America for pole attachments. This will have no effect on any tax revenues or general revenues. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 19065, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement between the City of Independence, acting through its municipal utility, Independence Power and Light, and Comcast of Missouri LLC for pole attachments. This will have no effect on any tax revenues or general revenues. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Ordinance passes. This takes us to our first readings.
Bill number 19066, an ordinance authorizing the First Amendment to the Community Center Services Agreement with Mid-America Regional Council for a maximum reimbursement of $60,250 in grant funding for the city's Senior Adult Nutrition Site Program for fiscal year 2019 to 2020, making the necessary appropriations, authorizing future change orders for additional funding and/or time extensions, and authorizing certain future appropriations. Bill number 19067, an ordinance authorizing a contract with VF Anderson Builders LLC for the College Street Improvements Project, project number 111805, for an amount not to exceed $802,346, authorizing future minor change orders for an amount not to exceed $80,234.60, and/or time extensions and increasing project appropriations. Bill number 19068, an ordinance approving a rezoning from District R18 PUD Moderate Density Residential Planned Unit Development to District C3 Service Commercial for the property located at 9701 East 35th Street South in Independence, Missouri.
Before you read 19069, Madam City Clerk, Mr. City Manager, we had received in the last several days some recommendations of some language changes to make sure that we are including the vape, what we are referring to as vaping products, but there's been some recommendations from some members of our advisory board of health that maybe our definition was not complete enough. Before so as not to further delay this, would it be appropriate, can we go ahead and have the first reading as it's written and make those recommended changes for the second reading, or do those need to be made before the first reading?
It can be made now, or in between readings.
They can be made in between readings, okay.
If we can do it administratively, I'll work with the clerk to
Okay.
incorporate those and have it ready for the next meeting.
Okay, very good. Go ahead.
Bill number 19069, an ordinance amending Chapter 11, Article 2, smoking in public places and places of employment of the Independent City Code to update Section 3 definitions. Bill number 19070, an ordinance amending Article 3, safe streets regulations of Chapter 12 of the Independent City Code.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I did just have a few questions on this ordinance. I've received a few emails from citizens, and they're concerned with our changing the age of carrying a rifle or a gun from 17 to 18. And specifically, I had a young lady who has a son who does go, I think she said trap hunting or trap shooting. I don't shoot. And he's only 17. And I noticed in this proposal, she would I think would have to be physically with him if he wanted to transport a gun across the city for the purpose of trap shooting. And so the chief and I were speaking earlier, and I asked him if he'd sort of addressed those issues generally with this ordinance to clear up any confusion.
Mr. City Manager?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll have the police chief help us with this one.
Good evening, Brad Halsey, Chief of Police. Yeah, so this ordinance that we have on the books on safe streets, 20-plus years old, and that language is still going to remain in there, and it says nothing in this section shall be construed as prohibiting the safe transport of unloaded rifles or shotguns through the city of Independence by minors under the age of 18. The reason for 18, January 2020, in the state of Missouri, that's the age of a adult now, not 17. For the purpose of hunting, target shooting, or attending organized firearms safety training activities.
And so people who have children 17 and below, these children can still go
Correct.
without the parent physically being there, so long as the parent's permission is given.
That is correct.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then what is the penalty for violating this? Do we know? I didn't notice it. And I don't know if it's a general penalty. I mean, do you penalize the parent or just the child or both?
Well, on the second page of this, it's the parent. It's ultimately going to be, if they said they gave permission, that's on responsibility of the parent, since they're the guardian, have to say, yes, I gave my child permission.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of youth that are involved in trap shooting and other activities.
Okay.
So,
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Okay, you're welcome. This takes us to council member comments. I'll start on my right with Council Member Doherty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We see tonight we have a first reading of a interesting new project, the College Street Improvement Project. This is something that Councilmember Perkins and I have worked on for quite some time. You know, you always hear that, oh, only everything goes to the rich area, everything goes to the poor area. What about the just average area? This is a very busy cut through from 24 Highway to Nolan Road. And this will demonstrate and give us a template on what it would take to clean up and make visually appealing just the average areas of Independence, what it would cost, what it would look like. Councilmember Perkins and I walked through that neighborhood with the city manager. We talked to any neighbors that happened to be there. They came out, was giving them their concerns on what they thought would be improvements. Those have been incorporated. This is just the first small phase of this. So it'll be for a second reading at the next regular meeting. Be excited to get this going.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Perkins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to add to that, I don't like to have grass growing under my feet, Mr. City Manager. So I know this is just the first phase, and this has been quite an undertaking to get all the utilities and everything aligned up there. And I appreciate Mr. Huff helping us out there through his contacts and stuff through IPL. So my question is, at what point, which is a good point to start looking from Highland Drive to Nolan Road, start planning that second or third phase, depending on how we break that up?
I think we would want to get direction from the council like we did at the strategic planning session a few years ago, which was the genesis of this project.
Right.
As the council will recall, and for the public's benefit, we at that public meeting talked about concentrating our efforts in core areas and corridors of the city so that we could make noticeable impacts as part of our strategic plan's commitment to quality. So I think we would want to prioritize that as part of our capital improvements program, just like we did this first phase.
Sure. Well, I'll keep that in mind. We'll keep this ball rolling.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Hall?
I don't have anything this evening.
Councilmember DeLucy?
I've got 3 things this evening, Madam Mayor. The first is the Pioneer Cabin. I appreciate the staff working so hard on the possible relocation of the cabin. I received some emails and telephone correspondence from citizens that were concerned about the possible relocation behind the Okta building. So I went and I took a look, and I asked Mr. Higginbotham also to take a look, and I asked a developer to also go and take a look, and he and I are going to go later this week because I do believe that the possible site as located by staff is going to be a drainage problem. And so my thought is to move it also in that same general area, but just to a place that's more visible, higher ground, and maybe we can avoid the drainage problems. The staff has been concerned because that would include a little bit more money to move. And so I wondered if it's okay with the rest of the council if we ask staff to maybe take a look and see how much more money are we talking about if we do move it, if that's possible.
What we could do as staff, I've had the opportunity to visit with the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Director, still looking as part of the originally conceived Frontier Trails Museum master plan, which involved relocation of the cabin. But we could take a look at, just what site readiness costs might be associated with that. Issues of running utilities, lighting, ADA accessibilities, a walking path to access it. I mean, I think it's clear the council's direction is to do this right, make this part of the interpretation. It's underutilized at its present site. We want to make sure it's accessed and utilized in a way that is befitting of the history of this community. So if you give us just a week or two, I think we can prepare those costs so you can make an informed decision.
If that's okay.
Madam Mayor, if I can piggyback off the Councilwoman's comments, I too agree with the site location. I went out there last Friday, and it was definitely a unique spot. I don't think the intentions are really great what the staff was trying to do. I don't know if that location would be the best spot to present the cabin.
Certainly.
I echo.
Madam Mayor, I agree with the council members that we really need to do this one right. If it takes a little bit more money to do a bang-up good job, we need to do it. It's going to be something that tourists are going to come and see. It belongs to that story. It needs to be there. It wouldn't hurt if they would give us a little presentation suggesting where they're going to put it and kind of what it's going to look like. When I had my original conversations with them, there was concern that there might not be enough of it to even reassemble it. And one of the things was actually putting an addition in the building, making a diorama, or putting it in an enclosure. Any way you go, if it's not enclosed, it's going to be prone to weathering, which will be an increased maintenance. So we need to look at a lot of options. One, if we were to enclose it to keep the weather off of it, may be more expensive on the front end, but less in maintenance on the back end. So I think we should see a couple of proposals where they want to put it on the site, how it would connect to the building, how it would be secured, and that type of thing for vandalism as well as weather, and how it ties into the master plan of that. So I think that's a good suggestion. We need to get it off the corner before it falls to crumbles, and get it numbered and pieces replaced and ready to go, and that's going to take some time to do it right, but they'll give us time to maybe look at the space and how we're going to reutilize it.
Okay, very good.
Second, we had an appeal last week, and it caused me to look at the arts subcategory within our UDO, and there is one particular provision that I wondered if staff could take a look at. Under the Arts District, it prohibits all outside overnight storage, and that's a pretty blanket prohibition. I mean, it doesn't even allow for any screening, and it doesn't even describe what storage they're talking about. A week or so ago, some people were arguing that cars being repaired were stored there, and there's nowhere a definition in the Arts District UDO ordinance itself. So if staff could maybe look at that, Mr. City Manager, maybe we can clean that up just a little bit, or at least define what we're talking about. I think that would be very helpful to everybody.
What I would propose then is we take a look through working with the city attorney and our community development director. We can schedule an upcoming study session presentation to review the language that you've caught there and get direction from the council about any potential legislative changes.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if I can interrupt. To piggyback off your comments, Councilwoman, the Inglewood Group, we are looking at an arts overlay district for that area, which would also include automotive repair shops and different things we're looking at to look at this holistically. So, Mr. City Manager, perhaps, and we're getting very close to wrapping that part of our discussion up there to begin to bring something before the City Council in the near future. So maybe perhaps we can incorporate that, what we're working on there, and bring that to the council as well.
Be happy to.
And finally, comprehensive mental health building. Mr. City Manager, last time we were here, I asked about it, and you said you would have good news for me tonight. Do you have any good news for me tonight?
We're closer. I'd intended to bring legislation for the council tonight. We'd prepared an agreement with the party who had expressed interest in acquisition. The party, in the intervening 2 weeks since we last met, has asked for a little more time to consider some alternative financing for those acquisition costs. So we are preparing that for the council's consideration.
When?
I see no reason why that won't be ready for the next meeting.
Okay.
We will bring that to you.
Thank you very much.
One way or the other.
One way or another, we will bring something to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilman Robertson.
Thank you, Mayor. The one thing that I wanted to just talk about tonight for just a moment and make a request, and that is the Blue Valley plant. I know we have talked about closing it down and about the timetable of when we're going to close the Blue Valley plant. We have passed that Onetta contract, which comes online, it's my understanding, in January of 2020. Is that correct? Comes online, the Onetta contract.
That's what we're getting the
Yes.
SPP review of transmission costs right now.
So
but
all
yeah.
those will be lined up, and that contract will take effect sometime in January, which means I think we as a council should have this as a discussion item at a study session in the near future so that we can start making plans as to when we're going to close Blue Valley, because we've all agreed that we're going to close Blue Valley. I know there was several recommendations that we received with the Burns and McDonald studies, and I'd like some of those recommendations brought to that study session so we can look at their recommendations for closing it down. And one of the other uses talked about 2 of the substation generators that are close to their end of life and will need to be replaced. And I know that study, that one of the studies that I remember talked about either replacing those generators at those 2 substations, and I believe it was the fuel oil generators, or replacing them and moving both of them to Blue Valley so they're in a central location, easier to maintain, and not leaving them at the substations. Presently, we have 6. We have 6 substation generators, and only 2 of them are fuel oil. So I'd like to, again, refresh my memory and the council's memory on the recommendations from the Burns and Mack study, bring that to a study session, hopefully soon, so that we can make a decision and start moving in that direction, because that whole process takes a lot of time. And we need to discuss that, I think, as a council. So thank you, Mayor.
We'll work with the clerk and see when's the best time to put that on the study session agenda.
Thank you.
Councilmember Van Camp.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Okay, there's nothing from me this evening either. Mr. City Manager, we did have an appeal hearing scheduled for this evening. We are not going to proceed with that appeal hearing. Would you just like to update the council on the status of that?
Yes, 2 weeks ago we had an appeal hearing on a business license revocation here in the City of Independence. Council continued that to tonight's meeting. In the intervening 2 weeks, I had an opportunity to visit with our city staff as well as the business license owner and the legal counsel for that particular applicant. So the conversation, as the legal counsel explained a couple of weeks ago, this is a business owner who's planning on a relocation. They've requested on or before May the 1st the ability to relocate. City staff is supportive of that, so in light of that, I've directed staff to cease pursuing the revocation of that license, and we'll work with the property owner on facilitation of their move where city is appropriate to help with that. So unless the council has direction otherwise, we would recommend not continuing with the appeal hearing.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else this evening?
Nothing tonight.
We're adjourned.